Hey friends, this is Dolynny TV. Glad to have you aboard here this evening. Obviously, Oilers now up and over with for the evening, and Bob Stauffer had Mac T on today. And funny enough, Mac T talking about exactly what this video contains this evening. Discussing what these Edmonton Oilers are about to look like, so long as they can basically tread water all the way to the playoffs and get into round one healthy from here on out. So it's pretty interesting actually when you look at it through the good lens what this Oilers team has done as a whole leading up to post trade deadline. It's actually quite interesting how almost all our problems, whether you want to say they're solved or not, when you look at going into the new year as opposed to halfway through or at the trade deadline this year, looking at what we were expected to do versus what we did back at the deadline or prior, what we were expected to do prior to the season, it all adds up. With that said, I'm going to waste no more time kind of angling you for what today's video is about. If you're new to the channel, consider hitting subscribe. Things are about to change soon for this Edmonton Oilers squad. And what do I mean by that? Well, we got a pretty good preview of where we're at last night. This Edmonton Oilers team against the New York Rangers, who are fighting tooth and nail to stay relevant in a year that they have sold off. The Oilers rolled out some interesting line combinations after Chris Knoblauch's really kind of over the past 2-3 weeks lost the plot, as the Oilers themselves on the ice as well have lost the plot in depth scoring and anybody except Draisaitl doing anything. It's kind of been a tough, tumultuous go since the Four Nations. But you see that game against the New York Islanders, the Oilers, they should be scoring more goals, but the big thing is they won. Because we've seen a lot of those games where they get frustrated, they push for offense, make a mistake, give up the goal, and lose. Whereas they found a way to just push through the annoying New York Islanders and just eventually win that hockey game. And same too, to some degree, with the New York Rangers, a little bit more degree of control in the game, I think, at times, outside of maybe a few bursts from the Rangers in the third period. So you look at the lines, though, what you're looking at: Henrique, McDavid, Kapanen, Perry, Draisaitl, Brown, Podkolzin, Nugent Hopkins, Arvidsson, Skinner, Janmark, and Jones. So there's a million and one ways that you can put this together. And by the way, Wallman, Bouchard, Nurse, Stetcher, Kulak, Emerson. But here's the thing. You got to remember that we're missing, at current, whether you want to admit Klingberg's a player or not, 4 players from this roster that could be impact players come playoff time. I think it's really 3. Klingberg's just replacement level. We kind of can settle into that, and that's fine. But you look at where the Oilers' lines could be come game 1 of the playoffs. I'll put a little caveat in here and say that Patrick from the Oilers Fanatic told me did not put Kane down for game 1. That was kind of my conversation on the way back from up north over the weekend, but he said don't put him down for game 1. He's more of a mid-series acquisition if you're wondering how the series is going, then you throw Kane in. Fair enough, but I just, for exercise purpose here today, I'm going to put Kane down on the top line and mix these lines, match them how you want. Look at how much more options there are. Look at how much more attack there is to this team in terms of physicality, in terms of just pressing the play, and of course as well in terms of offense. When you add a guy like Kane and Frederic into the lineup, and when you can start mixing and matching how these lines can work together. So Kane, McDavid, Hyman, and I'm just going over the 15 forwards available to us, maybe not even as lines: Frederic, Draisaitl, Arvidsson, Skinner, Nuge, Brown, Jones, Henrique, Perry. Again, compare that against the game lineups against the New York Rangers. What you see here with the Edmonton Oilers from last night is this looks more like that team from, 1920, 2021, that team that, hey, they're starting to build to something. They can be good with some more additions. And then all of a sudden you add on here this lineup. And I mean, Frederic, guys, I don't know what you know about the guy. I don't know what you've listened to. He is going to be an absolute lights out addition. If he is the Frederic from Boston that just goes out there and causes chaos, he's going to be amazing. You add that with Kane. You add that with, obviously, the depth the Oilers have within the other 14 guys on the roster that are available up front any given night of the playoffs. Plus, don't forget Savoy, Philp, all those guys. Just ran out of room on the graphic to include them. But this Oilers team has so many options to choose from. And if Frederic lives up to his billing, and this is a big if, because you know how ifs go in Edmonton, but basically, if Frederic lives up to his billing, everybody's sitting here talking about how the Oilers acquired a bottom six winger in Jones that crashes and bangs. And, you know, we acquired a guy in the bottom six that's going to be a game changer down there in Frederic. Well, take a look at this again. Frederic is a guy, and I mean, you can pretty much put anyone beside Draisaitl and McDavid, and they will have a good run of hockey. Whether it sustains itself or not, that's a big question. Usually tough to go there on that front. But like Jeff Skinner has been money when he's been in the top six this year. Just he scores a goal, he gets scratched the next game, so it's hard to build momentum. But again, you kind of shelter big boys who can go out there and throw the body like Kane, Frederic, Hyman up there in the top six with guys that create space for guys with big frames to get to the net. And then as well, you've got a guy like Arvidsson who's always willing to rip the puck. I think this just creates a dynamic top six. And whether you want to say the Oilers did acquire or did not acquire a top six player in Frederic, well, guys, I'm going to tell you, the acquisition of him, and if he does find some chemistry early on in his return to action here this season, now with the Edmonton Oilers alongside Leon Draisaitl, it could be literally light. So this top six is going to be awesome whether Kane produces or not, just as long as he's physical, it matters. Skinner and Nuge, again, I think there's something there to be said for Nuge running his own line. There will always be a room and a spot for that in Edmonton. Brown, hard worker, same thing. I think if you look at how I've constructed these lines, it really comes down to one thing. You want a workhorse on every single line. You want a guy with scoring touch, and you want a guy with passing ability. Well, right, you've got that through the three. I mean, Nugent Hopkins can pass, Brown's a workhorse, and Skinner can score. Bang. Whether you want to talk about the physical element of that line as much as the top two, maybe not the case. And then the fourth line, I mean, just Jones can run you over. Henrique can make plays. He can score goals. And Perry, he's been money all year. And you know what? After getting denied in another Stanley Cup final last year, if you want to think Corey Perry's not going to have a lights out playoffs based on what he's done this year, it's going to be good. I will tell you that much. So we go here as we get towards the playoffs. Again, everybody gets healthy. That third edition, obviously being Matthias Ekholm alongside Evan Bouchard, Nurse and Wallman, Kulak and Emerson. Guys, the defense has been a disaster at times this year. I think what you're seeing with Wallman on the ice is a much more steady Oilers team when he's out there. I think obviously this team, despite adding Wallman, has substantially been missing a healthy Ekholm. He is your number one defenseman. He's your leader back there. He's your guide basically for the rest of the guys. And I mean, just his experience overall playing in the Nashville system, coming here and having the success he's had just means so much to the defense. And I think Craig MacTavish, the reason I started the video talking about Craig MacTavish's hit on Oilers now is MacTavish just let off with, you know what, when you see guys going down blocking shots, when you see guys going out there throwing the body and making an impact that way, when you just kind of the intangibles of the game, really the finer details, I think was what Mac T was getting at. When you see guys doing that, that makes other guys want to do it. You combine that with a lineup, especially up front, where you're not running Draisaitl, McDavid 24 minutes a night together, and other guys are getting opportunity, it really starts to lend itself to everybody wants to get involved, everybody wants to contribute, everybody wants to seize the opportunity, and everybody wants to pull the team in the same direction. And when that happens, well, we've seen it like when the Oilers suddenly clicked, and I mean, it clicked in that Dallas series last year. They were scary. And you know what? They got smacked by Florida in the first three games, not going to lie. But all of a sudden, that moment in the Florida series that turned everything around, and you saw when it clicked again in game 4, and if you were in the moss pit for game 4, you literally physically felt it when it clicked out there for the Oilers, and the run they had to the final buzzer of game 7 from game 4 on. Wow, you know, it felt we were close against Carolina, but I don't think as an older Oilers fan, obviously as a kid you think you're going to win every game, but as an older Oilers fan now, I have never felt anything closer to absolute victory than getting to Game 7 against Florida. And unfortunately, whether you want to say it's the Bettman curse, whether you want to say it's this or that, it is just a roll the dice in Game 7 and hope the bounces go your way again. Whether Skinner should have had that puck or not, it did deflect off of Kulak. And that's whether that was enough to beat Skinner or it shouldn't have been, I don't care. That was the determining play of Game 7. So have it your way. The Oilers still, at the end of the day, last year came down to a bounce. And if they want to get everybody going in the same direction this year, especially with a team that has so much motivation to get right back where they were to that final moment where they can lift the cup in a roll of the dice, I'm going to tell you, it's going to be a fun summer. And you see it. There's plenty of potential there. Like I said, the key right now for the Edmonton Oilers, however, is just to tread water so you can build this lineup come Game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Now, it's not an impossible task. The Oilers legitimately, I think, have, I want to say 15 games left in the season, so they have to go 7-7-1 to secure 97 points, I think, is what the math I did, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, something like 95 points or 97 is 7-7-1. So it's not very hard, especially when you get Frederick back here soon, you get Ekholm soon, and you're able to start making some decisions up front with the personnel. So, friends, it's going to be an exciting finish to the season here. I thought I was going to do a news video today, but I felt like, let's go. Let's get it going. It's been a tough go, but we're getting to crunch time, and watching the Oilers win against New York has me feeling good. Welcome to it. I mean, everybody clowns me about how I run my channel, but name any other Oilers fan that doesn't go through the same range of emotions as me, and I'll tell you, they just don't invest as much as others do. So that's where we're at. Enjoy your evenings. We'll talk to you next time out, and thanks for being aboard.